JD Vance, of course, the Vice President. Have a listen. He's been very, very strong on this whole issue of free speech, in particular, free speech outside America, such as here. We want here on JD's radar. Here he is talking the other side.
Yes, ma'am. In his remarks at the Munich Security Conference, Vice President Vance condemned free speech violations in the UK, particularly. Could you respond? What is your message?
I have an idea. We have the man right here. Come on. Let's go, JD. We're putting you on stage.
Great. Yeah, look, I said what I said, which is that we do have, of course, a special relationship with our friends in the UK and also with some of our European allies, but we also know that there have been infringements on free speech that actually affect not just the British. Of course, what the British do in their own country is up to them, but also affect American technology companies and by extension American citizens. So
Britain has just suffered one of the most humiliating diplomatic blows in recent memory. The United States, our closest ally, has published an official government report labelling Britain as authoritarian. Not merely troubled, not simply concerning, but authoritarian. The timing makes it even sharper, arriving while America's incoming Vice President, JD Vance, was staying as a guest in the Foreign Secretary's home. It was the political equivalent of inviting your best friend over for dinner, only for them to publicly shame you in front of the entire neighbourhood before dessert. Washington didn't soften its critique. It made it official in a human rights report available to every government, journalist and watchdog worldwide, broadcasting Britain's failures on the global stage. And don't forget, over 98% of viewers watch our content without hitting the follow button. Subscribing to Dark Britain is free, and it ensures you stay on top of the stories others won't tell.
West, the transatlantic relationship, our NATO allies, certainly the United States under the Biden administration, got a little too comfortable with censoring rather than engaging with a diverse array of opinions. So that's been my view. Obviously, I've raised some criticism and concerns about our friends on this side of the Atlantic, but the thing that I'd say to the people of England or to anybody else, to David, is many of the things that I worry most about were happening in the United States from 2020 to 2024. I just don't want other countries to follow us down what I think was a very dark path.
This wasn't a careless jab, it was a calculated strike aimed at the heart of Britain's democratic reputation. While JD Vance sipped tea in the English countryside, his government issued a stark warning that Britain's democratic institutions are slipping into dangerous territory. The driving concern, the report makes clear, is free speech. Washington accused Starr's government of imposing severe restrictions on expression at record speed, highlighting the heavy-handed response to the Southport riots as the first glaring example. Rather than allowing open debate, Starr's team pressured social media companies, including American platforms, to remove posts deemed misinformation, a move the United States saw as state-backed censorship, the very behaviour Britain historically condemned abroad. Washington described it as grievous, signalling that allies no longer view Britain's actions as mere mistakes, but as systemic abuse threatening the core of its democracy.
The administration is so forthright in talking about these issues, no matter who's in the room. But the question begs, Brad, is he right?
I think he's absolutely right about the United Kingdom and their sad decline in freedom of speech and freedom of press. I mean, you have thousands of people who've been arrested over the years because of things they posted on social media. That is not a free country. That is a kind of modern dystopia, an authoritarian state where the government can roll up with the authorities to come get you because they don't like what you have to say. It is sad to see that happen to one of our greatest allies, a beautiful nation with a long history and legacy as a beacon of freedom in the West. And I also appreciate JD Vance calling them out for it. But honestly, it will have to come from within. Their own citizens will have to stop standing for it, stop standing for the censorship, stop standing for the overreach, for the absurd policing. You see video after video where the police roll up on somebody for a crude joke that they posted online, or for asking someone, why don't you speak English, or any other sort of thing that's just fundamentally not a police.
But the criticism didn't stop there. America also spotlighted new public space protection orders that allow police to criminalize even silent prayer in certain areas, Imagine being fined or arrested simply for standing quietly with your own thoughts, and called it a step toward policing belief itself. Then came the Online Safety Act, requiring adults to prove their age to access websites while giving the government potential access to encrypted messages, meaning private identities and personal conversations could be monitored by the state, a system more Orwellian than democratic. If censorship alarmed Washington, Britain's failure to confront rising anti-Semitism pushed them into outright condemnation. Since late 2023, Jewish communities have faced hostility not seen in decades. From a kosher shop in London defending against a knife-wielding attacker to a Yorkshire university chaplain and his family abandoning their home after death threats tied to his past service in the Israeli Defense Forces. These aren't abstract statistics. They are ordinary families living in fear, and for the United States, singling out Britain in an official report signals that this is no mere domestic issue, but a global human rights and national security concern. Then came the twist. While enjoying the hospitality of his British hosts, J.D. Vance delivered a quiet, diplomatic intervention, warning that America had made catastrophic free speech mistakes between 2020 and 2024, and Britain was now repeating them on an even greater scale. A moment as awkward and cutting as a guest leaning over your dinner table to lecture you on repeating their worst errors while still helping themselves to your food.
And it will last for a very, very long time. Well, no, I mean, certainly we wouldn't want to reach across US citizens, and we don't, and that's absolutely right. But in relation to free speech in the UK, I'm very proud of our history there.
Faced with this storm of criticism, one might expect the British Prime Minister to respond with authority and conviction. Instead, Starmer delivered a performance so weak it bordered on embarrassing. When questioned about free speech, he sounded less like a leader defending one of the most fundamental rights, and more like a nervous student stumbling through an oral exam. At a moment when Britain needed clarity and strength, he projected doubt, while the American report pulled no punches, spelling out in blunt terms that Britain suffers severe restrictions on freedom of expression and that the government has been inconsistent in holding officials accountable for abuses. In diplomacy, where even insults are usually wrapped in politeness, such direct language is explosive. The clear message being that Washington believes Britain either no longer knows where it stands, or worse, that it no longer cares.
Opposed to lost, and but we got along with them also. We have a very good relationship with.
The historical irony could not be sharper. A nation that once pioneered parliamentary democracy, gave the world the Magna Carta, and inspired constitutions across continents, is now being told by its closest ally that it has abandoned its own traditions. The land that once stood as a fortress of liberty, guiding others in their fight for freedom, is now being warned that it has strayed from the ideals it once exported. Britain, which once took pride in shaping representative government and civil rights for the world to follow, is no longer praised as a model, but scolded as a warning. The tables have turned, and the humiliation is undeniable. It is as if the teacher of democracy has been dragged into detention by its own students. This is not some minor embarrassment to be forgotten with tomorrow's headlines. It is a genuine diplomatic crisis. Washington's message is blunt: Britain has crossed the line, and if it continues down this path, it risks losing not just prestige, but trust. For decades, the special relationship was seen as unbreakable, rooted in shared history and values. But now those values are being openly questioned. When America signals that your democratic credibility is in doubt, the rest of the world pays attention, and once that doubt spreads, it rarely fades. The bigger picture makes the warning even harsher. Britain, once the example others tried to follow, is now a cautionary tale. its former gold standard democracy paraded as a lesson in decline. The message wasn't only aimed at Britain, it was a broadcast to the international community. If Washington is willing to brand Britain authoritarian in an official report, how long before Europe, the Commonwealth, or other allies echo the same judgment? The wording was deliberate, and its impact is devastating. Britain is no longer seen as a steady hand of democracy, but as a state drifting dangerously from its principles. And here lies the true danger. Once a nation is branded authoritarian, the damage is slow, quiet, and corrosive, but almost impossible to reverse. Trust begins to crumble, trade talks grow tougher, intelligence sharing slows, military cooperation is questioned, and diplomatic negotiations grow colder. As allies wonder whether Britain is still the partner they believed in, or has become unpredictable, even untrustworthy. The longer Britain refuses to change course, the closer it drifts toward real isolation. And the most unsettling truth is that this may only be the beginning. If the government continues pushing surveillance laws, restricting speech, and enforcing hate crime rules selectively, reports like this will not stop. They will multiply, each carrying more weight than the last. Today, it is America raising the alarm. Tomorrow, it could be Brussels, Ottawa, Canberra, or Tokyo. Once the chorus of allies grows louder, it becomes impossible to silence, leaving a brutally simple question for every citizen. Are we witnessing a rough chapter in Britain's democratic story, or the dismantling of democratic Britain in real time? For now, people can still debate, protest, and question, but even that cannot be taken for granted, because history shows that once a government feels comfortable silencing voices, it rarely stops at the first step. That is the heart of the crisis. Britain, once the torchbearer of democracy, is now the warning sign. America is no longer praising us, it is alerting the world. That shift from admiration to alarm should wake every citizen, because if it doesn't, what will? At what point does silence become complicity, and when do citizens realise that the freedoms generations fought for are being squandered by careless leaders? The real question is stark. Have we already crossed into authoritarianism, or is this just turbulence in the story of democracy? Is this a wake-up call, or the final warning before freedom quietly slips away? History will decide, but only if people today are willing to ask and act. This debate is no longer theoretical. It is unfolding in full view of the world. And while we still have the chance to speak freely, every voice matters more than ever. The clock is ticking, and the question is no longer whether Britain's democratic image is damaged, but whether it can still be saved. To stay updated as this story develops, hit the subscribe button. Every development matters, and we'll cover each one as it happens.